Look up at the night sky tomorrow and picture your familiar, glowing companion. Now imagine it's gone, not hidden by clouds or an eclipse, but vanished. Without that reflected sunlight illuminating the atmosphere, the night becomes a vacuum of darkness. But for astronomers, the view is a revelation. Millions of stars that were once washed out by the moon's glow suddenly become visible to the naked eye. Scientists, however, would be in shock. There is no known natural process capable of making a body nearly 3,500 kilometers wide simply cease to exist. Every observatory on Earth would begin a desperate search for answers that physics cannot currently provide. On the ground, social media explodes with conspiracy theories. Financial markets face immediate volatility, driven by the pure uncertainty of a world where a planetary constant has simply been deleted. Every civilization in history has known the moon as a fixed point in reality. This immediate chaos reveals that our collective sense of order depends on a presence we almost never think to question. Beyond human panic, the biological impact is immediate. Species that have evolved over millions of years around lunar cycles would find their evolutionary programming suddenly useless. Sea turtles, for instance, rely on the reflection of moonlight to navigate from the beach to the ocean. Without that signal, an entire generation of hatchlings would be stranded in the dark. Then the oceans settle. Without the moon's gravity, we are left with solar tides, only 1/3 the strength. Watch the coastal circulation. Tides act as a global mixing engine. Without them, vital oxygen and nutrients stop circulating through the shallows. Coastal ecosystems like salt marshes and mangrove forests are built around regular water movement. Without strong tides, these environments would begin to collapse. This stagnation would ripple upward, eventually destabilizing the foundational layers of the global marine food chain and commercial fisheries. We would also lose one of nature's most specific visual coincidences. Total solar eclipses happen because the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, but 400 times closer, perfectly covering the solar disk. Our systems of time would be forced to adapt. Since our months were originally derived from the moon's 29.5-day cycle, future generations would eventually have to abandon lunar calendars and replace them with systems based solely on Earth's orbit. For space exploration, the loss is practical. The moon is humanity's closest stepping stone into deep space, a nearby laboratory to test the technologies needed to survive elsewhere. Without a lunar base to serve as a fuel depot or mining station, current plans for the colonization of Mars would require a complete redesign from the ground up. Humanity would find itself in a strange isolation, losing its oldest cultural clock and its most accessible bridge to the rest of the solar system. But the most significant threat is one we wouldn't feel for thousands of years. Today, Earth spins at a 23.5-degree tilt, which is the reason we experience predictable seasons. The moon acts as a gravitational stabilizer. Its pole keeps Earth spinning smoothly, like a balanced toy top. If that disappears, our axis begins to wander. Over geological time, Earth starts to wobble, eventually tilting by up to 60 degrees. This would rewrite the climate. Regions could experience months of scorching summer sun that never sets, followed by winters of total freezing darkness. These erratic shifts would physically transform the planet's biomes. Ice sheets could expand into populated regions, while tropical rainforests might dry out into deserts. The stability that allowed agriculture and civilization to thrive would be replaced by immense, long-term uncertainty. Even with these catastrophic changes, life on Earth would continue. Humanity would almost certainly survive the disappearance of the moon. Our orbit around the sun would remain intact. Gravity would still hold us to the surface, and the atmosphere wouldn't simply vanish overnight. Because the worst climate impacts unfold over thousands of years, civilizations would have time to use technology and migration to adapt to a changing world. But the view from space would change forever. For the first time in billions of years, we would be looking back at a solitary planet, a blue marble drifting through the void with nothing to accompany it. We have spent our history looking at the moon as a distant, beautiful object. But its disappearance reveals it was actually the foundation, the silent architect that held our oceans, our seasons, and the rhythms of life in place while we weren't looking.